So we are ready to begin, and just to say good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. And I'm delighted to welcome you all to this event. Welcome. There are people from different parts of the planet, so welcome from the north, from the south, from the east, and from the west of the planet. Our theme for today is AI technology. We shall center our conversation on the role of educational institutions in fostering ethical and responsible usage of AI and technology among the future generations. And through this conversation, we hope to increase awareness of the benefits of AI and technology in education, to discuss ethical dilemmas posed by AI and technology in enhancing learning, and create a platform for all of us educators to exchange our experiences today. And since AI technology is a wide topic, I request all the speakers to share their email addresses in the chat, and participants who wish to make follow-up on areas of their interest, they can do so at their convenience. And so for the participants, you are also encouraged to post your questions in the Q&A section, and speakers will give time to respond to those questions. In case your question is not answered due to limited time, you can follow up with the speakers using their email addresses found in the chat. The participants are also encouraged to introduce themselves in the chat, and please let us know where you are tweeting from. The webinar is being recorded, and you can take time later to watch any part you feel you missed out during the session. Welcome once again to this event marking the International Day of Education. I now request Florence to play for us a short clip to help us focus before we begin the session. Welcome, Florence. Off with such important messages from the clip, we just take a minute to get those messages sinking into our minds and hearts, and then we'll begin. And now we are going to hear from our three incredible speakers. I will briefly introduce each speaker and the question to be discussed. Our keynote speaker is Kayo Murakami. Kayo is representative partner, CEO, Kazu and Company. Outside director, Sanyu Shokai Company. Outside director, Press Kojo Company Limited. She founded a digital content production company in 1996. Since 2001, she served as a consultant at Netgear Group, overseeing projects for various large enterprises, including business corporations and manufacturers, significantly contributing to the achievement of client companies' goals. Later transitioned to the client side to leverage consulting expertise and experience, taking on key marketing roles at CC Rakuten and a cosmetics manufacturer, where responsibilities included strategy formulation, budget management, and implementation of initiatives. She returned to consulting in 2016. Kayo has authored the book Understanding Web Marketing Through Manga, The Challenge of Hitomi, the Web Marketer. This book has become a long-selling title since its release and is often the first book that marketing professionals turn to. She holds an MBA. Welcome, Kayo, to give us the keynote.
Thank you. Good day, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on this meaningful topic. Today, I'll be focusing on harnessing AI in the age of human capital. Opportunities for education. By the way, how often do we encounter the term AI in our daily lives? I doubt there is a day that goes by without hearing about it. Personally, I hear it every day, and I actively use it too. In Japan, AI has been adopted across various fields such as product development, marketing, finance, accounting, and HR management. However, I'm particularly interested in applications in human resource management. Human capital management refers to a strategy where talent is regarded not as a cost but as an asset. Investments are made to maximize its value, thereby enhancing corporate value. The Cabinet Office of Japan has taken the lead in promoting this approach. Many leading companies actively disclose their investment achievements on their websites. So I say, the utilization of AI in corporate human resource management could be applied to educational settings. Let me share an example of a talent management system leveraging AI. This system visualizes individual capabilities, skills, experiences, and personalities, supporting optimal placement and development. Currently, About 20 companies in Japan offer such systems. The first case is Ricoh Japan, a major office equipment manufacturer. They use this system to digitize employee skills and growth levels, enabling optimal placement and development plans. This approach helps identify promising employees early, allowing them to assume key roles. The second example is the city of Yokosuka in Kanagawa Prefecture. Yokosuka initially struggled with a lack of a personal database, which hindered strategic HR management. By introducing this system, the city aims to ensure fair evaluations and placements, while creating an environment where motivated employees can take on jobs they aspire to. Just as these cases, corporations and government agencies visualize talent data to optimize placement, similar mechanisms could be utilized in education. For instance, AI could analyze individual students' academic abilities, personalities, aspirations, and experiences to propose optimal learning methods, academic paths, and future careers. Also, elementary school students, AI could suggest key areas of focus. For middle and high school students, it could provide insights into career choices and study methods. For university students, it could recommend suitable professions and company information. However, it is crucial to validate these AI recommendations from the perspective of appropriateness and treat them as supportive tools rather than definitive solutions. Educators, too, need to develop literacy in handling AI effectively. Today, I shared examples of AI applications in corporate and governmental HR management. Allow me to conclude with a quote from an executive at Ricoh Japan. What matters is not blindly following AI's recommendations, but how individuals interpret these suggestions and make decisions. The idea is to use AI to make effective decisions in reality. I view AI as a capable partner. Let us leverage AI and create new value in the field of education. Thank you for your time.
That interesting keynote. Thank you for reminding us that we should not follow AI blindly, but use AI to interpret suggestions and make effective decisions in reality. Thank you for that.
Thank you so much.
Now we come to our second speaker, Professor Raymond Sisson. I hope he's here.
No, Margaret, you have to ask Amparo.
Okay, so while we wait for Professor Sisson, now I think we'll get to Maria Amparo Alonso Escobar. And by way of introduction, Maria Amparo Alonso Escobar is passionate about social justice. She is the executive director and founder of Ethical Artificial Intelligence for Human Development, in short, EAID, a new global initiative dedicated to promoting AI training, the ethical deployment of artificial intelligence, and supporting local organizations in AI governance process. She works on challenges relating to responsible use of AI and sustainable development, that is, in education, health, or agriculture in developing countries through Catholic entities. With a strong background in strategic leadership and international relations, she has developed strategic global advocacy and programs aligned with the Agenda 2030. Previously, she held senior management positions in international organizations such as Caritas Internationalis. Her track record includes prominent representation at high level such as the UN General Assembly in New York, the Human Rights Council in Geneva, and a mandate from Pope Francis for global organizational change management of Caritas Internationalis. Maria Amparo is versed in human rights and integral human development, and has a consolidated experience at grassroots level in Africa, Middle East, and Latino America. She is a speaker at international events and lecture at different universities, and she is recognized for her transformative approach and her ability to build bridges between technology and the social and development fields, both nationally and globally. Maria Amparo will discuss some ethical considerations related to AI technology in our educational institutions. She will highlight the roles that educational institutions need to play to ensure ethical and responsible use of AI technology, enhancement of learning, without diminishing the importance of human interaction and critical thinking. I now welcome Maria Amparo to discuss these areas. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Margaret. Congratulations to all of you on this International Day of Education, as you are listening from different parts of the world and you are accompanying so many students in the world. So congratulations to all of you. I would like to start with another sentence, another inspirational sentence from Pope Francis when he said at the G7 that artificial intelligence has the potential to be both positive, for example, the democratization of access to knowledge, and negative, for instance, greater injustice between advanced and developing nations. And this is what I thought when we set up E8. What will happen with artificial intelligence in those low, middle-income countries? Let's deeper into that. When thinking and reflecting on those ethical considerations related to our educational institutions, three main issues are coming to me. One, accessibility and digital divide. You all know, accompanying the territories, that not all the schools, not all the students have access to the advanced technologies needed to implement AI systems. Educational institutions with fewer resources may be left behind. increasing inequality in access to quality education. And now it is quite famous, the SDG 4, SDG related to education, and the main principle of Agenda 2030 that no one should be left behind. In a world where 7 out of 10 children born in low and middle income countries cannot read by age 10, could then AI help address the dramatic learning equity gaps? We will look at that later on. Second point, the need to empower students holistically. The balance between the use of technology and activities that stimulate reflection, critical thinking, problem solving, and creativity is key. These skills are not only important in general, but become essential when it comes to evaluate the AI-generated content. And the third point is related to the three agents at the educational institutions through the respective roles. The first one, cool. The first one is the institutional center itself. Beyond equipping students with technological proficiency, education must also instill an understanding of artificial intelligence. The Artificial Intelligence Educational Guide promoted by the Spanish Ministry of Education emphasizes three layers that I really like. One, teaching for AI. So what this means, developing ethical awareness and critical thinking. Second, teaching about AI. This is the technical understanding. And the third one, teaching with AI, the practical applications related to AI. Which of the three you think is the most important one and the most difficult one as well? To me, is the first one. The first one, which is teaching for AI, the ethical awareness, the critical thinking, because then the practical applications keep changing every day, and nowadays there are thousands. We will mention some of them, and it's easy to put in practice those practical applications. But the most difficult one is that the first one, related to how we are going to accompany the students on that critical thinking process. Then also related to the first role, the first agent, educational institutions, there is also another point, which I think is crucial, that educational centers, institutions must adopt secure frameworks for data collection and usage first. You know, in a study done by Kaleidos University, they brought one important thing, important challenge, that is that the students and teachers do not understand the implication of AI in terms of security and privacy, and may be exposed to some risk. Then, if something happens, who will be responsible on that? Then, another point related to the educational institutions is the need to guide and ensuring continuing professional development for teachers, empowering those educators, those teachers that work closely to you in a continuous professional development to ensure that they remain relevant in an AI-driven classroom. It is true that if at that level, who should ensure that? Is the school? Is the ministry level? Just one data, it is related that at the ministry level, only 7 countries in the world reported that they had developed or were developing somehow frameworks or training programs on artificial intelligence for teachers. Only one, the Ministry of Education of Singapore, reported building an online repository center on the use of, for example, ChatGPT in teaching and learning. This clearly shows that teachers in most countries do not have access to well-structured training on the use of artificial intelligence in education, not least on the use of generative artificial intelligence. And then what happens? The absence of national regulations on generative AI in most countries leaves the data privacy attention unprotected, and educational institutions and prepare to validate the tools. So therefore, there should be also another work by the educational institutions with the ministries in order to get a consensus around the training programs for teachers as well. I mentioned three roles, three agents. The one, institutional, the centers. The second, the role of teachers. The role of teachers could be as technology integrators, but also the role of teachers as mentors in critical and ethical competencies. Artificial intelligence is a support, not a substitute for teachers. Teaching must remain a deeply social and collaborative activity, because while AI can help improve certain aspects, and we heard something about that, it mustn't replace human interaction in education. The role of teachers remains crucial in inspiring, guiding, and supporting students. And then I mentioned three roles. The third one would be the role of students. The role of students as consumers, we are teaching them through artificial intelligence. They are receiving that teaching, but also the possibility to be protagonists of the AI ecosystem as active participants and creators within the AI ecosystem, which the Ministry of Spain calls that teaching with AI. But as I said at the beginning, it's crucial, important that educational institutions, beyond equipping students with technological proficiency, the education must also install an understanding of AI. Then on the ethical considerations, I would like to deeper into two aspects. Ethical considerations for data privacy and bias in the AI integration in education. On that, I think a multidimensional analysis is crucial to understanding and addressing the ethical implications of deploying AI in education. I think there are, if we consider the ethical considerations in general, I think there are three main areas. One is data privacy. Second is justice and equity. And the third is social impact. For data privacy, we can consider aspects as issues of misuse of information and consent issue. Do I consent? No. Then the second one, fairness and equity, focus on algorithm bias and the lack of representation. There are certain groups which are not represented. So what happened with that? And the third one is the area of the social impact, technology gaps, cost barriers, technology dependency are some of them. In my discussion with the Catholic partners I'm now working through E8, this is one element brought by them. Who will pay for that? How are we going to solve the cost barrier? How are we going to solve the technology gap in this context? Particularly now entering into the first one on data privacy and security, as you all know, AI systems require large amount of data to function effectively. So the collection of student data, both academic and personal, raises some concerns about privacy. And imagine in this global context where we are today with representatives from many from different parts of the world, imagine the risk associated with data privacy. So, and then also there is one element which I consider so important, which are the heights related to artificial intelligence. Be aware, as I said, that artificial intelligence is data dependent. AI's performance relies on the quality and quantity of data that the system and artificial intelligence is trained on. Overhyping happens when people claim that artificial intelligence can produce accurate or meaningful insights in areas where data is scarce or biased. This happens, for example, in low and middle income countries, also happens in this part of the world. Artificial intelligence output is only as good as the data it is trained on. Without high quality data, the results will be flawed. So how do we support educational institutions in the world? to provide that data, to secure that data. AI systems also train on non-representative data sets, risk perpetuating stereotypes. How are we going to solve that? So institutions must conduct regular audits and diversify data sets to counter those bias. And then also, as I mentioned, the role of students as active participants, they should be educated about the bias mitigation. This is part of the ethical dimension I mentioned at the beginning. Both UNESCO ethical guidelines and the Vatican roll call for artificial intelligence ethics have integrated ethical consideration on their papers, especially as we know, the core themes of artificial intelligence capacity to personalize learning offers some advantages. We all know that, but it also needs that data governance to protect the student privacy. Educate, as I said, as I mentioned, educate students about data privacy, including how the data is used by the AI systems, is important. And as I said, educational institutions must adopt secure frameworks for data collection, guided by principles such as the ones highlighted by the Vatican: transparency, fairness, and respect for human dignity. And these principles ensure that technological advancement do not infringe individual rights. And then you may ask, and then with this I finish my last question, which is most related to, then you may ask, how can educators and institutions ensure that the AI technology enhances the learning experience without diminishing the importance of human interaction and critical thinking skills? No, that's we also mentioned at the beginning. And again, to finalize, a holistic approach is crucial. While AI offers, as we already said, tools to enrich the learning experiences, it must complement rather than replace human interaction and critical thinking. The Vatican call, again, the Vatican Rome call for artificial intelligence ethics stresses the need for AI to uphold the value of human relationships and creativity. And institutions can achieve this balance as you are doing in the world, because the Catholic schools right by the Sacred Heart is amazing in the world, no? Putting and not forgetting to put the student at the center. A student-centered pedagogy, integrating then the artificial intelligence in a way that promotes collaboration and reflection. The 2019 Beijing Consensus on Artificial Intelligence and Education elaborates further this human-centered approach. And this affirms that the use of AI technologies in education should enhance human capacities for sustainable development and effective human-machine collaboration in life, learning, and work. In education, and developers have started to fine-tune a foundation model to develop their EDGPT, which is not the ChatGPT, but more focused to specific data to serve educational purposes. But it is essential that those efforts are put into refining foundation models, not only through adding more and more and more subject knowledge and devising. It's also important to focus on if the challenge is or not to determine the extent to which EDGPT models can go beyond subject model to also target student-centered pedagogy and positive student-teacher interaction. For instance, we know that AI, as we mentioned before, can help with certain tasks, from educators to focus on mentoring, interpersonal connections. We also probably heard about some platforms, immersive technologies that can enhance engagement without supplanting the critical role of education. But as I said, policies that require students to document and critically evaluate the use of artificial intelligence in academic work help maintain the intellectual and ethical accountability. And it should be clear and to me this is so important, should be clear what the expectations of the school look like so the students know exactly what they are allowed and what they are not allowed to do. So not to keep quiet as schools, as educational institutions, but being clear about the expectations from the school. On the critical thinking and the problems related to hallucinations, for example, that you probably heard about this word, is not so widely known. Many students are surprised to learn that artificial intelligence can make up things that may be not true, while sounding highly convincing. Most often, the errors will go unnoticed unless the user has a solid knowledge on the topic of question. And this is one important thing. In some of the of my company, in some universities, this is one aspect I have noticed. When going through ChatGPT, for example, with the students and when asking the students, do you know how to use ChatGPT? They know how to copy paste. But one thing we notice is that we should reinforce the knowledge on the topic as the most important thing. The students should keep learning because otherwise the artificial intelligence is not a magic thing coming to our life. I would like to finish with this with Vanderberg and Duplessis in 2023, mentioning that in educational settings, artificial intelligence can be used as a tool, not just for delivering content, but also for encouraging students to question themselves, to analyze, to reflect, to think deeply about the information they are presented with. I thank you all, and I remain just here for any further questions. Thank you.
Wow, a lot of food of thought to think about, to reflect on. Let's just take 1-2 seconds to absorb all that. So thank you, Maria Amparo. Thank you for emphasizing that AI technology needs to be used to empower students holistically, that AI and technology should support teachers but not substitute them, and that when using AI technology, educational institutions must be guided by principles of transparency, fairness, and respect for human dignity. Thank you so much. And I'm happy to report that our third speaker has arrived, and this is Professor Raymond Sisson. By way of introducing him, Raymond Sisson is a university fellow and full professor of De La Salle University, where he has served as Dean of the College of Computer Studies and more recently, Dean of the Brother Andrew Gonzalez FSC College of Education. For almost 2 decades, he also led FormDef, that is, a community of volunteer students and faculty members who facilitated the learning of life and values of St. John Baptist de La Salle. He holds a PhD in computer science, focusing on artificial intelligence, machine learning, and user modeling from Tokyo Institute of Technology, and a PhD in education, focusing on educational leadership and grounded theory development from De La Salle University. He currently spearheads Quest, a multi-stakeholder, multi-component, and multi-phase framework for rapidly improving the quality of education in resource-challenged schools with the help of technology. Professor Sisson will be exploring how AI technology have been integrated into educational curriculum to ensure that students are prepared for a future driven by AI/technology. He will spell out challenges of bridging the digital divide and ensuring equity in AI technology powered education. And he will also discuss how institutions can ensure that all students access AI technology-driven educational tools. Welcome, Professor Sisson.
Thank you very much, Sister Margaret. And I apologize for not being here earlier. I thought that the seminar was tomorrow. I'm very sorry about that. And thank you to the organizers for rapidly accommodating this unexpected event. And thank you to everyone for your patience. So let me begin by giving a short definition of AI. For me, it is the ability of machines to perform tasks that would require human intelligence. 2 decades ago, we heard of Deep Blue. This is an IBM machine that defeated Garry Kasparov, chess grandmaster. Today, we have AI in very simple devices like a vacuum cleaner called Roomba. AI is used in automatic driving by Waymo, a subsidiary of Alphabet, which owns Google. We have AI being used routinely to perform surgeries in the big hospitals. Now, there is another term that I would like us to be familiar with a bit. It's artificial general intelligence, or AGI. This refers to the ability of machines to solve a wide variety of problems in a manner similar to human intelligence. So some people think that we have already achieved AGI because when they communicate with ChatGPT, it really does feel like you are communicating with a human being. However, we are still far from even competent artificial general intelligence. Most of the AI that we see today are narrow AI, artificial narrow AI or narrow AI. So for example, Grammarly, for example, if you're familiar with this, you're composing a report or a paper, and Grammarly automatically checks for grammar, tells you what you need to do to improve the grammar of your system. This is expert level narrow AI. We have Deep Blue, the one I mentioned a while ago. We have AlphaGo. These are very, very intelligent gaming engines. They are better than humans. These are at the level of virtuoso, level 4, but it's narrow AI. So ChatGPT can be viewed as an emerging form of artificial general intelligence, but we are still at a very early stage. So we are now in what is called the third AI spring. So an AI spring is a period of rapid progress and great hype. So we've had 2 AI winters so far. We are now in the 3rd AI spring, and eventually we will have the 3rd AI winter, sooner or later. Yeah, that will happen when the hype bursts. What is the current hype? So these springs are actually fed by the hype. The rapid progress, the great funding and the rapid progress is basically fed by this hype. So what is the current hype? The hype is that GAI equals AGI. That generative artificial intelligence is artificial general intelligence. So it's a hype because we are really at just the very earliest stages of artificial general intelligence. So what is this generative AI or Gen AI? Our speaker a while ago already talked about ChatGPT. Yeah, ChatGPT is probably the most popular generative AI product. Generative AI is the ability of machines to generate content, all manner of content, not just text, but also images and videos. And the way that generative AI is designed today is that it requires large volumes of data. So we are familiar, some of us are familiar with ChatGPT. Some of us might have used it, but we also have Copilot. If you're using a Microsoft product, Copilot is most likely already installed on your device. And Google, of course, has a generative AI product also called Gemini. Now, GAI is used in many fields, including education, of course. And a recent study by Microsoft looked at the use of GAI by teachers and students. So according to their study, which is also consistent with other studies, such as those done by the Department for Education of the United Kingdom and by the Department of Education of the US. So these studies show that teachers usually use GAI for creating materials, lesson plans, materials, assignments. They use GAI for brainstorming new ideas to simplify complex topics. Students use GAI for summarizing information to help them get started on their assignments, to get answers or information more quickly. It used to be that we relied on Google, but now generative AI provides better answers than Google. So, of course, teachers and students are taking advantage of that, and so on. So, but these are data from those who use GAI. In developed countries, many students and teachers use GAI. But in developing countries like mine, I'm from the Philippines, this is not used a lot in our country, not in basic education. Only the best schools, the private schools, the most expensive schools use GAI. What are the main concerns about students' use of GAI? Again, this is from the Microsoft study, which again is consistent with the studies of the departments of education of UK and the US. Teachers' main concern has to do with academic dishonesty, plagiarism specifically, and cheating. 42% of teachers are concerned that their students are plagiarizing and actually presenting the outputs of GAI as their own work. Well, recently, GAI products already are capable of citing, but the earliest versions of GAI could not cite their sources. And so it was very difficult for students to figure out where GAI got all of these data or facts or information. 34% of teachers are concerned that students are becoming overly dependent on GAI. 23% are concerned about privacy issues. These are the top three. Other concerns have to do with the lack of policies and ethical concerns, such as the impact on human autonomy. The students also reflect a similar concern. 52% of students are concerned about the potential to be accused of plagiarism or cheating. Maybe for them, they are not plagiarizing or they are not cheating because the students, well, they are generation alpha and they're generation Z and generation alpha. Generation alpha are those who are in elementary school today, and generation Z, well, those who are at university. So they might have a different sense of the use of knowledge. We who are older, generation X, generation the earlier generation, we might have a different view about intellectual property. These young ones, they feel free to just borrow from anywhere on the internet. There is a kind of democratization, if you like, of knowledge that is taking place. But of course, we are also concerned about intellectual property. 48% of the students are concerned about being overly dependent. 30% are concerned about misinformation. 28% are concerned about job loss, and 21% about privacy and security. These are the main concerns. So how do we deal with these concerns? Of course, you know, there is a lot of literature, a lot of reports produced by these governments, major governments of the richest countries in the world. But given, well, I do prefer to sort of identify just a few that I could work on and that we could work on. And for me, these are two things that we can do to mitigate these concerns. The first one is to teach AI or GAI literacy. So what is this GAI anyway? How does it produce content? And how, given my knowledge of how it produces content, how it generates content, how am I now going to use the content that it generates? All of that is under GAI literacy. But this is very difficult to explain, especially if one is not literate. So let me jump a bit to the next slide. What are the challenges? So one of the things that we can do is to teach GAI literacy, but the problem is very few people, very few among us who are adults now have the literacy. Very few can understand how GAI generates content. But for me, it is important for us to have a basic understanding of how GAI generates content so that we will know how to use it properly. So we know that GAI requires a lot of data. That is true. But how does GAI use the data in order to produce new content? One of the biggest problems of GAI or of AI is that our technology is so sophisticated right now that we no longer understand how it generates knowledge, how it solves problems. The developers of the algorithms behind GAI no longer know what's happening inside. And when you no longer know what's happening inside, we are talking about the developers, okay? If the developers themselves don't know what's happening inside, how can the users have an understanding, a clear understanding of how GAI works? It's a very big problem, really. But one of the solutions that governments are now requiring of technology providers is that the AI must be explainable. Explainable AI. So this is one of the solutions that people are developing because, again, we can no longer look inside the algorithm and understand what's happening. The algorithm is so complex. The models are so complex. They can no longer be understood by a human mind. And so governments are now requiring that these technologies be able to explain themselves. This is explainable AI. But then again, there are also questions. What if the explanations are not truthful? It's a very complex issue, really. And so what I'm writing here as a challenge is really a very big challenge. So how can we develop GAI literacy? We really have to take courses. We really have to learn from technologists and those who are able to translate their language to the language of the users. We have to learn in order to build our AI literacy. Then we can talk to the younger generation about the use, the wise use, the misuse, and the abuse of AI. The second thing that we can do to mitigate the concerns is to teach the virtues. Because no matter what we do, the technology will outstrip us, no matter what we do. While we are doing our best to learn how to use AI well, technology has already gone further ahead. So how are we going to keep up with it? We cannot keep up. We cannot. It's going to be very, very difficult to keep up. So what can we do? We have to teach the younger generation the virtues because they will have to make the decisions by themselves. The older generation can no longer, we cannot tell them how to use the technology anymore. You know, like I said, technology is advancing so rapidly. We have to give them instead, we have to try to teach them literacy, but more importantly, we have to teach them to make the right decisions. We have to teach them the virtues. These are the cardinal virtues of prudence, of justice, of fortitude, of temperance. We have to teach them the theological virtues of faith and hope, and most importantly, love, so that whatever decisions they make with respect to all of these, especially love. Is what I'm doing the loving thing to do? Is what I'm doing an expression of God's love for others, for myself, for my family members, for my friends, for society? We can only do so much in terms of teaching them literacy. But what we can do is we can teach them the virtues. The third challenge is that there can be no GAI literacy without access to ICT. Now, in developed countries, the concern is access to the apps, to ChatGPT. But in developing countries, we don't even have the devices. So, Sister Margaret told you about one of my advocacies. It is using technology to rapidly improve the quality of education in resource-challenged schools. In most schools in my country, there are no devices for the children. There are none. In fact, not every child has a textbook. Just last Wednesday, I visited a partner school, and they were so happy that finally the textbooks for this school year have arrived. The school year will end in March. The textbooks just arrived, and not every student has a textbook. And textbooks are, of course, cheaper than devices. So if there are no textbooks, there are no devices. But the problem of my country is more than access to devices. The problem is very systemic. The problem has to do with the disconnect between the training of the teachers and the learning abilities and foundation of the students. It will take maybe a decade for the disconnect, for the bridge between teacher and student capabilities to be bridged. In the meantime, technology is probably the easier, the faster, the cheaper way to rapidly increase the quality of education. So what do we do? There are many organizations and private individuals who can actually provide devices. So all we need to do is to find them, connect them with the schools, enable the students to use the devices, provide tutors for the students because the teachers cannot handle 40 to 50 to 60 students in one class. So this is the situation in my country and in many developing countries, 50 students, 60 students in a class. So we need tutors coming from all over the world who have the capability to and ability and willingness to tutor students through these devices. So what do we do, especially for developing countries? What do we need to do to help the students eventually use AI wisely? So first, we have to provide them with devices. That's not difficult. Second, we have to provide them with tutors because their teachers can no longer support them well enough. We need tutors, one-on-one tutors for these students. Again, there are so many people in the world who are willing and able to tutor. We just have to match them, provide them access. We match them, we get them together online through these devices so that they can catch up, and these tutors can be trained to provide AI literacy. But we also have to teach these children the virtues. The tutors hopefully will have the virtues, but maybe we will have to rely on other people to provide the teaching of virtues because it's not so easy to teach the virtues online. I think the virtues are best caught rather than taught. And so we will need people to actually accompany. This is a Lassallean word, to accompany the students, accompany the young people. So these challenges are not insurmountable. In fact, of all of these three, the third challenge is the easiest to deal with. The second one is the next most difficult. The most difficult is the literacy because, like I said, we cannot keep up with the technology. But if we teach the students virtue and if we give them access, yeah, they will learn how to navigate the future. So I mentioned a while ago that we are in the spring, the third spring of AI. Maybe in a few years, 5 years, 10 years, the winter will come. But AI is here to stay. Yeah, the nice thing about this pattern here is that although there are ups and downs, there is an increase, yeah, in the knowledge that remains. So that is always what will happen in this AI cycle. So although we will eventually see a winter, an AI winter, rest assured that the most important, the most effective ideas and concepts will remain. So the AI winter may be inevitable, but AI is here to stay in this world. But I would like to end with this because this is only in this world. The word of the Lord, on the other hand, remains forever. Thank you very much.
Yeah, a lot of information to take in, and what a good way of ending that though there are so many challenges to do with AI, AI is here to stay. So we cannot throw it out of the window, but we need to find mechanisms of coping up with the AI, how to use it, and mostly teach the young generation the virtues that they need in order to use AI rightly and effectively. Thank you very much, Professor Sisson.
Thank
And
you
so
very
we
much.
take another 1 minute or two just to take in all that. And I continue encouraging participants, if you have a question, please just write it on the chat. And soon we shall be having a question and answer session. And so at this juncture, I would like to pass the next session to Yolanda Jimenez, who will facilitate the question and answer. And so welcome Yolanda to facilitate, to take us through this session.
Bonjour, bonjour à toutes, bonjour à tous. Merci beaucoup à Caio, Amparo et Raymond pour leur partage qui nous laisse beaucoup de matière à réflexion sur l'intelligence artificielle et son pouvoir transformatif. Donc, nous voici maintenant au temps de la question et réponse. C'est l'occasion donc pour leur poser des questions, leur demander s'ils peuvent éclairer certains points que vous n'avez pas compris ou simplement pour partager vos commentaires ou vos observations. Donc, ne soyez pas timides parce que jusqu'à maintenant, je n'ai pas vu de questions sur la chat. Allez-y, levez vos mains, vos emojis ou écrivez directement vos questions sur la chat. Alors, attendez, là, je mens parce que je vois que quelques-uns ont écrit. Aydin partage avec nous un commentaire où elle dit que la télévision anglaise, BBC, a produit des programmes très intéressant sur l'intelligence artificielle, comment cette intelligence artificielle marche. Merci Aidine de nous partager ces programmes. Donc, j'imagine qu'on peut les trouver en ligne sur le site de la BBC. Nous avons aussi quelqu'un de l'Institut Mater qui pose la question. Je traduis en français. La question a été posée en espagnol. Quelles sont les applications? ¿Cuáles son algunas aplicaciones que nos recomiendan para el uso? OK, donc j'imagine que c'est un enseignant qui écrit cette question, qui pose cette question de l'Institut Mater. Je n'arrive pas à voir tout son prénom. Et donc, il pose ou elle pose la question sur quelles applications on peut leur recommander pour utiliser l'intelligence artificielle dans les institutions éducatives. Quelqu'un veut prendre cette question? Quelles applications pourrait-on recommander à l'enseignant ou l'enseignante de l'Institut Mater pour utiliser dans leur école? Amparo, Raymond, Caio?
Yes. Yes, I think they can use generative AI apps such as the ones that we mentioned. So I'm typing them on the chat box. ChatGPT, for example, or Gemini, are generative AI apps. So a lot of teachers and students in developed countries are now using these apps for greater productivity. And I think Amparo also mentioned that it's very important that the schools have policies for the use of AI, including generative AI. Without the policies, there will be, the use might not be so effective.
Merci Raymond. J'espère que la réponse est satisfaisante pour l'enseignant, l'enseignante de l'Institut Mater. J'aurais une autre. Amparo veut rajouter quelque chose? Ah,
yes,
je te laisse.
In English, can I add that in English, Yolanda?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, so to complement what Raymond just mentioned, again, differentiating teaching for AI, teaching about AI, and teaching with AI. So through the different layers, there are different applications. And mentioning, for example, when you are teaching with AI, there are new tools, as for example, Canmigo. Canmigo I like very much because it's a way to interact with the students, to do reasoning, to make them think, for example. Again, depends whether you want to deal with text, as mentioned by Raymond before. If you want to deal with videos, then there are new apps, for example, related to that, as Synthesia, for example, which is interesting. Then again, if you want to, as a teacher, if you are now listening as a teacher, and the new EBGPT also present some quizzes, which is interesting, or for example, the Magic Schools also helping to simplify complex text and generate comprehension questions for the students, no? And Defeat, for example, that's another tool, and it helps you if you are a teacher to take any text and to adapt it to different reading abilities. Again, I insist, this differs depends on where you are based. Because, and again, I like to insist on the ethical guidelines and the policies that you, as dealing with your teachers and students, you are going to put in place. Because the privacy is important. All these applications also differs whether the applications are free or you need to subscribe. So that's another challenge that all these applications are presenting. Just to mention a few of them.
Merci Amparo pour avoir rajouté quelques noms à la liste dont Raymond avait commencé. Donc, je pense qu'on a quelques noms d'applications. Ils ont répondu sur la chat, ils les ont écrites. Je passe à une autre question parce que pas mal de questions demandent plus ou moins où trouver l'information, quelle application utiliser. Une autre question qui est un peu différente, celle de Norka Farfan, qui demande à partir de quel âge les enfants peuvent-ils être initiés à l'intelligence artificielle à l'école? Y a-t-il un âge limite de début pour approcher les enfants à l'intelligence artificielle? Quelqu'un est intéressé par la question?
Yeah, they should start early. As children use devices, maybe very early in their lives, that should be when literacy begins to be taught. Which means that the parents carry a very important role in this AI literacy training. We cannot wait for the teachers to teach AI literacy. The parents themselves need to understand. In one of the questions, there was a question on security, which I suppose is related to privacy. And my response is, all of these AI apps gather data, all of them. So the question now is, what will you provide the app with? Which data about you are you willing to provide the app with? All students must know that when they use any of these AI apps, the AI apps are gathering data about them. They just have to be aware. Yeah, so this awareness, this has to be taught very early. Children as young as 3 or 4 who start using apps, whatever apps that use AI, they must be aware that someone is watching. The AI is gathering data. They have to know this and act, with the help of their parents. They need to know what to give and what not to give the AI app.
Merci Raymond. Est-ce que Amparo ou Caio aimerait rajouter quelque chose à la réponse de Raymond sur l'âge et la sécurité sur l'utilisation de l'intelligence artificielle?
Probably not just on the security, which I already mentioned that on the privacy that I extensively mentioned that. I would like to respond or to complement something related to the children when dealing with technology, which I totally agree on that because it's true they start to use it very early, especially in developed countries. Now I speak as a mother of three children, and I think the balance between the use of technology and the activities as a mother, as a teacher that stimulate reflection, critical thinking, problem solving, and the creativity is crucial. So you as a teacher, you know that those soft skills will be crucial for your students. Me as a mother know that in fact, I can give the device to my children, but it's especially important that my children know are creative enough and to deal with the technology in the future. So there, we have a responsibility as a mother, as a teacher, as institutions also to deal with that balance.
Merci Amparo d'avoir intégré. Caillot aimerait rajouter quelque chose peut-être? Il me semble. Non. Donc, on a bien compris que l'intelligence artificielle doit être utilisée dès le plus jeune âge, mais aussi être sensibilisée et avoir un bon équilibre entre l'utilisation, la sensibilisation et des activités qui stimulent la créativité des enfants dès un bas âge. Je n'aimerais pas aller au-delà des temps et j'aimerais respecter les temps. Je ne vois plus d'autres questions sur la chat ou si quelqu'un aimerait lever sa main. Il nous reste 8 minutes et je crois qu'on doit passer la parole à Maki qui va nous faire un petit résumé de ce thème, de cette question qui bouillit dans notre quotidien, du nettoyage avec les aspirateurs, comme Raymond disait, à la génération de contenu pour des étudiants. Donc, je laisse la place à Maki ou à Margaret et je vous remercie de vos questions qui ont ultérieurement enchanté cette intelligence artificielle. Merci beaucoup. Merci Margaret.
Yes, by the way of thank you very much, Yolanda, for leading us in this session of Q&A. For questions that are not answered, we encourage participants to contact any speaker that can respond to that. You have their emails in the chat. And for the synthesis, the synthesizer is Maki Saito, a graduate of the Sacred Heart schools in both Japan and the US. Maki is an expert in social marketing, SDGs, management, and education. So welcome, Maki, to give us a very short synthesis before the speakers can give us a thought for us to live with, a takeaway that they have from this session. Thank you, Maki. Welcome.
Thank you, Margaret. Hello, everyone. Thank you for the insightful speeches. My role now is to bring together the ideas presented by our speakers and how they contribute to a larger narrative of transformation. Ultimately, my goal is to inspire action from all of you. Let me start with a question. What are the transformative moments in history? The leap from candle to electricity, the shift from horses to cars, or evolution from fax machine to smartphones. These moments were not just advancements. They redefined what humanity could achieve. They unlocked new ways to connect, create, and thrive. After hearing Dr. Raymond's speech, I feel like springing into the world of AI. After all, we are in the spring of AI, a season of growth and renewal where new possibilities are emerging. AI is no longer just a tool, as Kayo said. It is becoming a human partner, amplifying our ability to innovate and solve problems faster. However, with this transformation comes great responsibility. Maria's call for ethical consideration of AI reminds us
How we form this partnership will determine whether it continues sustainable progress or leads to unintended consequences. This transformation should not be about technological advancement. It must be about making thoughtful choices to shape a responsible and inclusive future. As students and educators, the message is clear. Change is not a threat. It's a gateway to growth, creativity, and resilience. Transformation is inevitable, and how we choose to respond will determine our future success. This is your moment to embrace the spring of AI. Let curiosity guide you as you explore new possibilities. Let adaptability empower you as you navigate change. And let creativity inspire to use AI, not just to do more, but to do better for yourselves, your community, and the world. So as we leave this conference, let's make one commitment. We will not just use AI to be faster or smarter. We will use it to be better. Better learners, better thinkers, and better collaborators. Because in the end, the greatest transformation isn't just in technology. It's within ourselves. And if that doesn't work, remember this. When life gives you lemons, use AI to write a better lemonade recipes. Thank you.
Wonderful synthesis. And this brings us to our speakers. Do you have any word to give us to go with? A takeaway that we can go with? Just one word or one phrase or one sentence out of all this. Anyone is free to start.
I would like to start. Being a computer scientist, and I'm also involved in developing models for generative AI. I know that, as I said a while ago, it will outstrip our capabilities. So in the end, we are left with the virtues. The virtues are what are going to keep us safe. Thank you.
Margaret, you were mute.
Yeah, Margaret?
See?
Yeah, just to finish saying that as we mentioned before, AI is here to stay. So better to understand what is this about, what this means for us, what it means for future generations, as soon as possible, better than later. And but especially through that important balance that I like to insist, the balance between technology and the balance between those skills that are needed to be reinforced to deal with technology, especially for the future generations and for the students that we are accompanying in the world. Thank you.
Or sentence? Okay. Okay, so, yes.
Sorry. マキさん、通訳お願いしていいですか？はい。これ、最後の締めのお言葉ですよね。
そうです。
はい。今日はどうもありがとうございました。皆様は教育者でいらっしゃると思うんですが、私はビジネスの世界、マーケッターとして仕事をしています。ビジ
Thank
ネ
you
スの世
for
界での、
ちょっと待ってください。ちょっとずつやるんですけど。
Okay.
Thank you for your time today. Most of you are educators, I believe, but I work as a business person, as a marketer.
で、今日お話ししたのは、ビジネスの世界での AI の使われ方、ビジネスや行政での AI の活用の仕方、で、そちらでの使い方と教育での使い方は、私は本当に両方行き来できると思っています。で、それで今日お話をさせていただきました。皆様にそのことを分かっていただければ、大変嬉しいです。
I'd like to end my speech with the hope that AI is capable to apply to business, governance, and also in education.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Kyle. And now we have come to the end of this event. Thank you all for very fruitful webinar. Thank you to all our incredible speakers for sharing your expertise, knowledge, passion. We have really been moved. And thanks to the participants for attending and for your questions and comments, which have really enriched the webinar session. Our next webinar marking International Day of Education is next year. So please stay tuned for the next webinar and send suggestions about the topic we would like to have next year. And I ask Florence to replay for us that video as we say bye, and may God bless each one of us, and thank you so much. Let's keep in touch through the emails.